Coming up on Early Edition at 6, hundreds of thousands of students across the nation take what will be the most important test of their lives, the college entrance exam. President Park Geun-hye's trip overseas continues. She is in Myanmar now, where she discusses bilateral ties and economic cooperation with the Prime Minister of India. The European Space Agency celebrates the historic touchdown of a lander on a speeding comet, opening the possibility of learning more about the origins of the solar system. Stay with us for these and more.
It's 6 in the evening on Thursday, November 13th here in Korea. Live from Seoul, I'm Laah Hyun-kyung.
And I'm Daniel Choy. Welcome to Early Edition at 6. Siren and loud cheers, that's the norm today. It's a big day for high school seniors here in Korea.
That's right. More than 640,000 students took what will probably be, as you said, the most important test of their lives on this Thursday.
They sat down for a grueling 8-hour college entrance exam that will play a primary role in determining which college they'll get into. Today, they were tested over subjects like Korean literature, English language skills, and mathematics.
That's right. Perhaps this is a culture unique to Korea, but because the exam is deemed so important, airplanes are grounded for a 35-minute period in the afternoon while students do the listening portion of the test. Many companies advised their employees yesterday to get to work an hour later by 9 a.m. so that students could get to the exam site on time at 8:40 a.m. sharp.
And the answers for the test are already out apparently, but students will have to wait until December 3rd for their official scores.
It's just nerve-wracking just by saying that.
It is. Well, I guess it was good the employees got to work 1 hour later than earlier. Well, if you're Korean, you probably already know a number of superstitions related with exams.
Right. Mothers used to stick taffy on the front gate of the school while waiting for their kids to get done with the exam. It was a symbolic gesture back then, hoping that their kids would stick to their first college choice, right?
Stick to it, that's right. And there's more apparently. Our Connie Lee explains some of the fun and at times even ridiculous beliefs.
So how far would you go to ace your college entrance exams?
I won't be washing my hair.
To do well on the exam, I'm eating taffy and chocolates.
Not your typical study habits, but the exam is deemed so important that the students will do whatever it takes for that high score, even taking part in some
superstitions.
One of the biggest ones is that students eat the right snacks. It's either taffy or rice cakes. Why? Because they're sticky. These come in neat gift sets this time of year, and as they say, eating these snacks will help the study material stick in the students' minds and help them stick to their top college choice from their high scores. While these snacks are okay to eat, one superstition says that test takers should avoid eating seaweed soup. So much so that some restaurants specializing in seaweed even close on this day.
I opened my restaurant on exam day before, but no customers came in. Since then, I've closed every year.
There's a belief that the slippery seaweed could lead the test taker to slip away from success and fail. But for success on test day, receiving certain items is also common.
As good luck charms, students either get a fork or a pair of tweezers to help them pick or pluck out the correct test answers.
Since most of the questions on the exam are multiple choice, it is quite important to make the right picks. Finally, there are some students who avoid washing their hair ahead of the test.
My friends and I believe that washing your hair can wash away what you studied.
These superstitious acts show just how much importance the nation places on education. It's not like most Koreans actually believe in these superstitions, but adhering to them acts as a bit of a stress reliever.
Connie Lee, Arirang News.
In other news, Korea's central bank has left its key rate steady at its lowest ever 2%. But with the mounting pressure to tackle the weakening Japanese yen and to prop up the still sluggish domestic economy, pundits are expecting another rate cut. Park Geun-hye has the details.
The Bank of Korea on Thursday decided to keep its key rate unchanged at 2%. This follows two previous rate cuts in the second half of this year that left the country's base rate at a historic low not seen since the height of the global financial crisis in 2009.
The Monetary Policy Committee considered the fact that there's a need to wait and see the impact of the two previous rate cuts and to achieve financial stability amid the recent rapid rise in the country's household debt.
Still, market expectations are mounting over an additional rate cut in the next couple of months. Analysts cite the domestic economy remaining sluggish despite aggressive government stimulus measures and other uncertainties abroad.
Recently, the Bank of Japan decided to expand their QQE, surprisingly, and that actually had an impact on the 1 yen cross rate. And I think the business the leaders, the corporations, I think because of that uncertainty, they probably don't want to invest at this point.
Korea's top central banker, however, ruled out the possibility of more monetary easing to counteract the weak yen, saying the exchange rate is swayed more by factors like the conditions of major economies and international capital flow than the key interest rate. He added that the current 2% rate is accommodative enough to support the country's recovery momentum. Now all eyes are on the fourth quarter growth rate that will be unveiled in January. Experts say a worse than expected figure would add pressure on the central bank to further cut its key rate as a means to prop up growth. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
Now, the National Assembly's Foreign Affairs Committee has passed bills for free trade agreements with Australia and Canada, respectively, paving the way for the ratification of the pacts soon. Earlier this afternoon, the ruling and opposition parties agreed to ratify the free trade pacts no later than December 2nd to quell some of the concerns that the FTAs would affect Korea's livestock sector the most. The ministers of Finance and Agriculture agreed today on the terms for aiding Korean livestock farmers through reduced loan interest rates and assistance in exporting their products to facilitate consumption. The FTA with Australia was signed back in April, while the deal with Canada was inked in September.
In other news, a group of Korean medical personnel have embarked on a trip to Sierra Leone as part of the government efforts to help contain the deadly Ebola virus in West Africa. The team will stay there for about a week to assess the conditions so that the Korean government can later decide on the final scale of its support team. Our Connie Kim reports.
Korea dispatched its first group of medical personnel to Sierra Leone this Thursday to give the Ebola-stricken country a much-needed helping hand.
We will lay the groundwork to ensure the best conditions for our medical staff while they tend to the needs there.
Seoul's Foreign Affairs Ministry says the volunteering doctors, nurses, and military officers will first visit Britain before traveling to the West African country. The group is being dispatched in advance to check the medical facilities and working conditions in Sierra Leone. Staying there until November 21st, the Korean team will work at a British Ebola treatment facility in the capital Freetown with other health experts from countries such as Britain and Denmark. The deployment comes as the World Health Organization reports the total death toll from this Ebola outbreak has now surpassed 5,000. The number of new cases are slowing in Liberia and Guinea, but Ebola is still spreading fast in Sierra Leone. On Sunday alone, 111 new Ebola cases were reported in the West African country, one of the highest daily rates ever recorded. And making matters worse is that only 19 out of the 53 treatment centers in the country are operating due to a lack of medical supplies and personnel. As fears grow about the devastating effects Ebola is having on Sierra Leone, Korea has vowed to continue its support even after the first team returns to Korea. After receiving assessments from the first task force team, the Korean government will decide upon the final number of medical staff to send to Sierra Leone. 145 doctors, nurses, laboratory technicians, and safety managers applied to join the global efforts. The number of applicants far outstripped the government's expectations, but Seoul only plans to send less than 40 personnel to the West African country by the end of December. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Two heavyweights in North Korean human rights issues are in Seoul to attend the 4th Seoul Human Rights Forum. One said North Korea was growing more concerned about its human rights situation, while the other reiterated calls to refer the North Korean leadership to the International Criminal Court. Our Hwang Sung-hee reports.
Attending this year's Seoul Human Rights Forum in Seoul on Thursday, U.S. Special Envoy for North Korean human rights issues Robert King said North Korea is slowly addressing its dire human rights situations. He noted Pyongyang's recent invitation to UN Special Rapporteur on North Korean human rights, Marzuki Darusman.
He's been denied visits to North Korea for 4.5 years. The North Koreans indicate that they're willing to invite him to Pyongyang as long as the text of the resolution is modified. I think these are all very clear indications of North Korean concerns about the focus on their human rights record.
Also at the forum, Darusman reiterated that the North Korean leadership should be taken to the International Criminal Court for its crimes against humanity, the part in the UN draft resolution that most disturbs the North. The UN envoy said the international community should also start considering the prospects for reunifying the two Koreas.
In my opinion, relates to the possible organizing of a high-level political conference involving the United Nations and the states that were parties to the Korean War, with a view to reaching a final peaceful settlement of the war that commits all parties to the principles of the Charter of the United Nations.
While the UN General Assembly will vote on the human rights resolution in mid-December, the two human rights figures agreed on adding more pressure on the regime. Both Darusman and King agreed that the next crucial step would be to link the North Korean human rights issue with security dimensions by listing it in the agenda of the UN Security Council. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
Well, North Korea may have found an ally in its fight against the UN draft resolution, which calls for referring the North Korean regime to the International Criminal Court on charges of human rights violation. Cuba reportedly has come up with a revised version of resolution, saying that the ICC referral is a dangerous precedent that could be applied in the future against any developing country. It's believed the language may be aimed at garnering support from African countries. The UN General Assembly has adopted a resolution against North Korea's human rights abuses every year since 2005, but this year's aims to go a step further and refer North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and others under him to The Hague.
Face a one-day entry ban. 77.
Digging deeper, getting to the bottom of stories that impact your life. Talking with you on air and online. Connecting you with experts on the world's most pressing issues. News and current affairs at its best. With Laah Hyun-kyung and Daniel Choy.
Arirang News.
Arirang News.
Arirang News.
On Early Edition at 6.
The leaders of Korea and India met in Myanmar. President Park Geun-hye and Prime Minister Narendra Modi are both there to attend this year's ASEAN +3 and East Asia Summit. Now, the two pledged to enhance cooperation, especially on the economic front. Arirang's Choi Yu-sun files this report from Myanmar.
Ahead of this year's East Asia Summit in Myanmar, President Park Geun-hye held talks with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi for the first time since he took office in May.
재임 중에 양국 간의 협력 모멘텀이 더욱 강화될 수 있도록 함께 노력해 나가기를 기대하면서 또 오늘의 회담이 양국 관계 발전에 소중한 밑거름이 되었으면 합니다.
I hope we can cooperate to further strengthen Korea and India's relations.
Praising Prime Minister Modi's bold initiatives to attract foreign investors to India's industrial and infrastructure projects, President Park asked him to support Korean firms aiming to win large-scale orders. To that end, the Indian leader welcomes such participation and investments by Korea. Suggesting cooperation in coal gas development and nuclear energy, the Korean president invited her Indian counterpart to make a state visit to Korea next year. On Thursday, the 18 East Asia Summit state leaders will discuss pressing global issues such as the Ebola outbreak and the threat posed by Islamic State militants in the Middle East. At the following ASEAN Plus 3 summit, President Park plans to talk about her unification drive and the North Korean nuclear issue with the 10 Southeast Asian nations, China and Japan. Attention is also being paid to the ASEAN launching their economic community by the end of next year. The ASEAN is Korea's #2 trading region with a total trade volume of $135 billion last year. Choi Yusun, Arirang News, Naypyidaw.
Now, the European Space Agency has written a new chapter in the aerospace history. The Rosetta mission has successfully made a first-ever landing on a speeding comet in space. The probe, however, wasn't able to tightly latch onto the surface, and because of that, scientists say the lander may not operate for as long as hoped. Kim Young-gil has this report.
There were scenes of jubilation at the European Space Agency as the Rosetta's lander made a historic touchdown on the speeding comet. Scientists say they received confirmation from the small robotic probe named Philae after a roughly 7-hour descent as it made a bumpy landing on the surface of Comet 67P. The actual status remains unclear, however, after harpoons designed to firmly attach Philae to the comet failed to fire.
So we have science data coming, we have pictures, we have measurements from all the instruments. Science continue coming. Of course, the scientific experiments will start a bit later.
The landing is a feat of space engineering, considering the whole expedition hinged on unproven landing technology, and the comet is whizzing through space at a staggering 18 kilometers per second. In search of the secrets of the solar system, the mission has been 2 decades in the making and explores not just life on Earth, but the possibility of life elsewhere. Scientists also hope to discover more about comets, which are predominantly clusters of dust and ice.
There's a lot of new information about the origins of our solar system, of our own planet, the water which is on our planet. Does it come from such comets? And I think that indeed justifies all this effort.
The probe will start doing scientific experiments, taking pictures and analyzing the comet's surface once it's properly secured and stabilized. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
Let's shift our focus from space to inner space, as in gastronomic delights. If you're looking out for the latest in the food industry, we have some good news for you. The annual Food Week Korea event kicked off this week in Seoul, with exhibitors from around the world showing off their locally produced food items. Our Kim Min-ji takes us to the scene.
Food experts from around the globe have gathered under one roof, united by the theme Food for the Future. The annual Food Week Korea offers companies a chance to expand their scope of business and discuss changing industry trends.
Food Week Korea will be an opportunity for the domestic food industry to promote exports as well as increase exchanges abroad.
ASEAN member countries are also taking part to help promote their lesser-known food products.
I'm great can be here so we can promote our products from Brunei. We hope we can find the market to introduce this blue shrimp in the Korean markets.
Solely using locally produced foods, they held a special cooking session to give visitors a chance to taste a range of their unique dishes.
It was a great experience to try food we can't eat every day. I was able to try shrimp, dried fish, as well as some alcoholic beverages.
Also on display are Korean food products that highlight changing trends like the rise in single households and demand for food on the go. From Korean-style burritos to pre-packaged noodles, rice, and other ready-to-eat meals, the wide selection is attention-grabbing. And small and medium-sized companies are also here in full force to capitalize on opportunities to sell overseas, like this local company that hopes to increase its brand awareness and gain a competitive edge in the global market. Along with the aim of boosting development in the food industry, exhibitors have come with hopes of promoting their products to a larger consumer base at the event, which runs through Saturday at COEX in southern Seoul. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Having an open channel of communication within families is important, but oftentimes it's easier said than done. Our Im Hyun-hye introduces us to a play staged at the Seoul Arts Center which addresses this very topic. Take a look.
Billy is the youngest of 3 children, but he's the only one in the family who's deaf, and he never really learned sign language. As a result, his range of communication is strained and limited. But then he meets Sylvia, the daughter of 2 deaf parents, who's fluent in sign language and slowly going deaf herself. The two come from entirely different worlds, from entirely different families. They come from their own tribes.
First of all, this story is about loving your family. But in a tribe that's called a family, members show that love in ways that they see fit, not the ways that others need to receive it. And under this kind of system, Billy, as well as other members of the tribe, are the direct results, showing what happens when love becomes a selfish act.
Sign language is another valuable source of communication, especially for those who are hearing impaired. Those who may feel a bit outside the traditional means of communication. And here, the tables have turned. Speech is no longer as meaningful as, say, signals from the hands and movements from the body. But with the loss of one sense comes a sensitivity to the others, especially the realization of the power of words. A set of words dancing in the corner of your eyes suddenly fades away with just a few blinks, much too quickly to comprehend. These subtitles, often taken for granted, are now a source of confusion and misunderstanding as they're continually flung across the stage.
Deaf people have a harder time understanding others' spoken words, and it often becomes more about the feeling than the actual facts. That's why we made it so these subtitles are fleeting, and it becomes frustrating to read. We paint a quick image to show the feelings of the speakers and create the overwhelming experience we want to share.
Although it's not the traditional approach to a play, sometimes it takes someone else's point of view, someone different, to appreciate what you have. A tribe is made up of members, each with his or her own imperfections. But together, they share values and customs to make the perfect tribe, the perfect family. Im Hyun-hye, Arirang News.
And on to our next culture item of the day. Korea's largest art fair devoted to introducing limited edition artwork opened on this Thursday.
And our Park Geun-hye helps us take a sneak peek at the 4-day exhibition.
Ranging from photos and woodcut prints to 3D computer artwork, this fair is all about art pieces that have a limited number of editions. Since 1995, the annual International Art Fair has invited a number of participants and guests from all over the world. This year's includes 51 galleries from 15 countries. Those who visit will get close access to the artists themselves and exhibit booths.
My works are about the endless networks of our lives that interconnect everyone. It looks like a plant, as plants represent the circles of life, from its creation to extinction.
In this project, I did a performance in a site near the Auschwitz camp where people were shot. And I asked the audience, there were about 300 people, I asked them to write down the names of the people they love and put them in candles, and the candles went down the river to the ocean. So it became this kind of celebration of life.
On the sidelines of the festival, diverse programs are being offered, from artist talks and collaborative projects to printmaking classes. The festival continues until this Sunday at the Hangaram Art Museum of Seoul Arts Center. Park Geun-hye, Arirang News.
It has been and it always will be apparently. SAT day here in Korea is always bitter cold.
Very cold every year, right? It never fails. But students were greeted by wintry weather, of course, once again. And for details, let's go over to Kim Bo-kyung, who's standing by at the Weather Center. Bo-kyung, what's the latest?
Good evening, guys. Temperatures did drop to the lowest of the season so far in most regions, plus ski resorts in Gangwon-do province opened today. So earlier this morning, that is, numbers dropped to -3 degrees and daytime highs only reached up to 5. And do keep in mind that temperatures will gradually fall as the night progresses, so make sure to bundle up when heading out. At the moment, it is raining on the western coast as well as Jeju, while most regions are under clear skies. As for tomorrow, there is a possibility of light snow in Seoul as well as Gyeonggi-do province. Other than that, due to cold air from the north, it seems like this colder than seasonal average weather will stick around for a while. Here are the readings for tomorrow. Seoul and Daegu reach 11, Gwangju 12, Busan makes it to 13. As for other regions, Daejeon makes it to 10, Dokdo hits 9, Kumgang remains cooler at -2. Those are the updates we're following at this hour. I'll be back with more after 8. See you then.
Well, good job not just to the test takers, but the people around them that help make it possible for them. Thank you for staying with us. That's all from us. This has been Daniel Choy.
And I'm Laah Hyun-kyung. If you are tuning in from Korea, have a great evening. Daniel and I will be back same time tomorrow.